We are recording. And I guess I can go next. We're talking about reopening and the pandemic and everything. My libraries, like I said, were mostly publics. So almost all of them have been doing curbside for quite a while now. Some of them are open. I've had a few of them that are getting ready to reduce hours again now that school's starting, just preemptively, because they don't want to deal with sick kids in the library. Um, but for the most part, we're open. I do have, I think, one library that's still closed, but even when they're closed, they're still sharing resources. They're still running courier, placing holds and filling holds. Um, so that's where we're at.
I'll go ahead. So most of the home libraries are community colleges except for one, which is a four-year school. They're all over the place. One is going to be fully open to the public, but they bought a machine that zaps everything that's coming in with UV light that supposedly kills the virus. But they're going to also have people in the library, so that'll be interesting. And then the rest of them either don't know what they're doing yet. They may offer no services. They may offer curbside pickup or something like that. Or I doubt they'll be fully open at this point. And then some have some kind of like hybrid where they're maybe offering curbside pickup, but not really letting people in the library, although they will have the staff coming back. And then for the flow libraries, one is having all of their students come back and live on campus. And I think that starts next week, so we'll see how that goes. I'm not optimistic about it. And then the rest it's some kind of mix where mostly they're doing hybrid or just online totally. And then the library is not going to be open, but in the one that is having students back on campus, the library is going to be open. So that's been very contentious. It doesn't really affect the consortium folks, so the people I work with directly, but the librarians who actually work in the library, and that's actually where our office is as well. They are going to have to like police these students. I don't know, it sounds like a mess to me, and they have to clean up after them or make them clean up somehow. I don't really know how they're going to do it, but it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting experiment. But nobody's really sharing out. There might be some in-network sharing, but again, only with those who are either open or maybe are doing some kind of hybrid model. So yeah, it's all over the place really. That's why I'm not giving a very clear answer.
We're all over the place as well here in Indiana. The institutions that we have 24 libraries. They're all small to medium-sized academics, but they're all in various stages of opening. Students are coming back, and some of them are having them on campus, and some are doing some hybrid scenarios where they're having certain numbers of students on campus and that sort of thing. In terms of resource sharing, mostly up and running with resource sharing at each institution. They're doing, like a 3-day quarantine for items that are coming in, and that sort of thing. Course reserves is a big issue right now for people, just trying to work with faculty to find alternative materials and determining what can be scanned and made available that way. But resource sharing is generally happening. We have our statewide courier that's running, so they're serving publics and the academics right now. But again, they're recommending a quarantine period across the board. So I think that's fairly standard, I think, for us, just because we do have that, single courier within the state. We have had already our first instance, Joe, I don't know, hopefully it's not like a bellwether for what happens for you, but here in Indiana, Notre Dame, I think, we're getting some feedback.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, Notre Dame started, and then they've kind of gone on a 2-week hiatus. Butler University, which is one of our institutions, actually just announced yesterday that they're doing the same thing. They had like some campus sort of, non-sanctioned campus events, and then subsequently a large number of students were then infected. So they're now doing a 2-week hiatus as well. And so other places are just getting ready to get started. So we'll see, like you said, unfortunately not too optimistic. I think it just may depend a little bit on the scenario and how they're handling their students returning, but I don't know. It's yeah, I can't really give a good answer.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like right now, just the academics in general, not just the library, is going through this big experiment of what's going to happen when you get a bunch of people together and it turns out they get the virus is what happens. So.
And they're all 18 to 22, at least at the 4-year school
Yeah.
for the most part, and that's just not a good age range for
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
control, I would say. So, I don't know. Interesting.
So Christopher's here. I think we had some feedback on your mic when you were there earlier, so I don't know how well that's working. You want to? I muted you because it was, yeah.
Right now, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. I have to meet you again. I think we'll just rely on you for the chat there because that's and you're still in Uinta, is that right, Christopher? Okay, so that's in Utah. So they have a smaller consortium there. So the next thing we talked a little bit about resource sharing, but this has kind of been my pet project, and we talked about it a little bit 2 months ago, is trying to do some development with the way holds work. Because as it stands right now, you have an either or setting where you pick that holds will either follow the circles of the patron or follow the circles of the item. And what this particular having to shut down a bunch of libraries all of a sudden has exposed is that there are problems either way you do that. So what a development I've been pursuing and working with Bywater, and unfortunately we haven't got a bug filed yet because they're putting a lot of thought into it. I was hoping to have the bug to show everybody today, but it's not quite done yet, I don't think. But what we're trying to do is get it to look at both sides of that equation, because if you look at the holds rule of the item, that allows a situation in which on Koha where it will prevent, so if you set circles to say, I don't want to lend this particular item type, then that will prevent outside requests. However, it doesn't prevent that particular library from requesting another library that has those items, well, let's see. This is where I get all tripped up because it's complicated. So it will prevent outside requests coming in, but I could then place a hold on something from another library, even though my own rules say that we don't want to place holds on that thing, because unless the other library has the same rules, if that makes sense. Conversely, if you do the other thing and you look at the patrons library, you have a situation which particularly doesn't work well when there are libraries that are closed, is you can have, if there's no rules saying that I can't lend, then it allows my patrons to request items from library branches that aren't lending right now. So that's kind of the pickle we're in. I know, Jason, you talked a little bit about how you're using some jQuery to suppress some things so it doesn't show up. Do you want to give a brief explainer of what you've been doing with that?
Oh gosh, I can try. Let me see if I have that written up.
Yeah, I find that the whole thing is some of the more complex stuff, so it doesn't surprise me that it's been a several month long conversation trying to get a bug filed and get some development going, but hopefully we'll have something soon. Go ahead. Yeah.
So do you have like all library rules that are system-wide?
We do have some, but anytime you set a specific branch library rules, those overrule that.
Right. So I'm wondering if you could do something there. So the way we do it is we only have library rules for the patron and item type combinations, and not all libraries for. So we don't have branch specific rules for items that are shared system wide. So I think in that case, but maybe if you're not doing that, maybe it doesn't work. But I think for us, we could just block them there from borrowing and lending, I believe.
Yeah, we have, like, I just got a request just to change the number of circs on a particular item type for that specific. We have such customized circ rules. Ideally, well, at least ideally from an administrator standpoint, we'd be in a situation where everybody used, similar item types, similar patron categories, and we could all agreed to rules. But
I see.
That's just not. I think we could probably get more towards that, but it's not practical with the different levels of or the different types of libraries, because we still have a situation where schools are going to close during the summer, so we have to do something about that. So even if everybody agreed on the same rules, we have to prevent their students from requesting items while they're closed, because it won't go, they can't pick them up anywhere. Or we pick the other side of that, and then we have to prevent requests coming in that will never be filled because those schools aren't open and nobody's checking that. So that's kind of the situation.
Yeah, I think. And how many libraries do you have in your consortium?
It's like 120.
Yeah, yours is much more complex. I'm only dealing with 12, so.
Yeah, 12, I think you can probably figure out some way. You can hopefully get some better agreements on.
Well, and they're all academics. So they're all pretty similar. So we've been able to standardize it pretty well. Not, I wouldn't say perfectly, but enough that I think what I was describing before is we can probably control most of it. But yeah, if we had 100 and something, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So I posted in a presentation I did at Coeur d'Alene on our new item sharing setup, which is our interpretation of what you're talking about. And then I also posted just the jQuery I'm using to kind of make those tooltips and stuff. But basically what we do is we have it set up so that for new items, a patron, we have sharks and fishes. Sharks are immediate sharers, fishes are delayed sharers. So we block holds for the fish on all other libraries items that are new. And then for the sharks, the people that are willing to share their new stuff, they can place holds on anything, but we want to make sure that they know that the fish aren't going to share their stuff for 6 weeks. So it's not exactly what you're talking about, but it puts up those barriers on placing holds based on the branch. And it's definitely clean, not clean. It could use some work for sure, but it does work for our reciprocal new item sharing stuff. It gives my libraries a sense of empowerment, I guess. They don't feel like they are losing out when they're sharing their new stuff if they know that the other libraries are being penalized or not for not sharing their new stuff. And that the core part of it is setting the holds policies for the specific item types. We do have, each library has their own rules, but they all share a single set of item types. So I can say that new books at library A work this way and new books at library B work this way. So before our move to Bywater was when we did a bunch of consolidation, but we had over 1,200 shelf locations. We had hundreds of item types, and we decided to consolidate that all down. So they can all define their own rules and do whatever they want as far as circulation, fines go, and holds, limits, all that kind of stuff. But they are required to use the same item type as the other libraries so that things work more harmoniously.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, the cat's out of the bag on that one. And just due to the nature of, we started with a small group of libraries. And when I came on, it was 8.5 years ago, that we had like 30 libraries. So we've quadrupled basically in 8 years. So that's, and one of the selling features we've had is to say, hey, you know, we'll, you know, you can come on, you don't have to, there's some things that are going to change, but we're not going to change everything. So we offer that level of customization, which again is appropriate to the multi-type library setup we have. Anyway, I thought I'd go over kind of what some of the scenarios that they've come up with at Bywater, just to throw that at you. Let me get, okay. So scenario one has a situation where there's 4 libraries, A, B, C, and D in a consortium. A, B, and C all have DVDs and are willing to share those with other libraries. Library D does not want to share those. So libraries A, B, and C have set a hold, their hold policy so that any library can place a hold on those materials. And with the new development, what would happen is library D says, no, we don't lend our DVDs. And that would be then reciprocal. So it would check both the patron library and the item library for those circles. So instead of doing what we've been doing, which is, I don't know if any of you probably haven't had the joy of messing with branch transfer limits, but it is a real mess. It's a good way if you need to patch up like one little thing, but the more libraries you have and the more item types you have, it gets so complex you can't even load the thing. So we have to have Bywater basically run scripts when we are opening or closing in the library. So this would make it so you just set the hold policy and then it gets looked at both directions. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is if anybody has any ideas on how that would improve things. I know for the smaller consortia that may not. You seem like you're running fine. You're not running into these particular problems. Okay, so in scenario 2, there's those A, B, C, D libraries. A, B, C have DVDs and share them. Same. Library D has DVDs and does not share them. Let's see, what's the difference here? Sorry. This is where we start using home library instead of, because there's the 3 settings, right? There's the any library, no holds, and then home library only. So what that's doing is also, apparently this is a distinction for the developers that's very important, that home library is implying that they don't want to lend it to somebody else, whereas they feel more comfortable if it's just no holds allowed all the time, then they don't have to rely on an implication. So that apparently is a different scenario for them. Okay, I'm going to stop going through these scenarios because I think I'm probably more confusing everybody than helping. The bottom line is that if we can get it so it checks both, and what they're thinking is creating a system setting where you can set it where it can either check one or the other or check both, basically. Both the patron library and the item library. So that's basically what we're going towards. So I think that might have some positive implications for like SEKLS. My guess is like the rest of you probably wouldn't really need that based on what your setups are, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
I think any development in this area would be helpful for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm following it. It sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, good. Well, I want to get that's why I'm like disappointed I can't just link to a bug, and just I was hoping to have that ready for this meeting so we could just look at that because there might be some things that are that others could find use in, or maybe a little suggestion to tweak it a little bit that would make it better for the community. Because I do think we're my consortium, even though we're not the biggest in volume, I think we're the biggest in number of libraries. So lots of small libraries, but so there are definitely bigger groups with as far as number of records total. But where are you at, Jason? How many records do you have roughly?
I want to say like items. I think we were around 700 last time I checked. 700,000.
So
records
we're
are
bigger
closer
than
to
that.
500.
So even though we have like way more libraries, we're only about twice as big as you as far as records. We have about 1.4, I think, million total items. Anyway, that's been my particular quest. So I will get off that and we can move on to something else. I'll just pause for a second and see if anybody has any things about Consortia that they're interested in hearing about or wanting to discuss.
So just sort of related, but not just tangentially, I'm going to put this bug in the chat. It's come up at several different SIGs recently. And it's just talking about a more streamlined way to open and close libraries, which is, I think,
good.
of interest to us as a consortium because we have people opening and closing frequently lately. But just take a look at that one and comment on it if you feel you would like to see that move along, I think.
So, so I think what I was just talking about would aid in that, at least as far as resource sharing. What is this, just a resource sharing, or this?
So this is more, yeah, it deals with that. I think the idea is to get like a central location where you can say, I want to close this library from X date to Y date, and I want all of these things to happen when they're closed.
Okay.
So it's more of a management perspective on the whole opening closing, because right now you have to change things in 12 different places to close the library.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea behind this one, is just to make it more central location for that.
Okay. Yeah, anything that makes that easier, because yeah, like I was saying earlier, I mean, this year has been particularly wild with libraries closing at random times that normally don't, but we definitely run into the thing where school libraries every year have to do it. So yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that.
And I think that's where this one started, was closing for the summer, but
yeah.
it's kind of grown into just closing.
Yeah.
One thing I ran into since the pandemic started, it's kind of tangentially related to this, but it does deal with kind of managing the CERC roles, is so it probably impacts academics more than anybody, but we have academic libraries that have multiple campuses. But in the hold rules, you can set it from home library, but that is very precisely that specific branch. And there's no way within the CERC rules to recognize a group of libraries. So there's actually a bug, I'll put in the chat for that, but what I had to do was I had to batch update, at least for one library, to batch update all of their items so that they were listed as all coming from the same branch. And then I had to put a note so that I know where they all are. But it's like a huge pain to have to go back and forth. And then they'll have to also know that they're at the other branch. So they actually close the other branch and they're just going to be open at one branch. Not the students can't go in the library, but they'll be doing curbside pickup. So they'll have to know, so they'll see it requested from that library, then the librarian's gonna have to go in and see, oh, this has a note, this is actually a downtown. And then they're gonna have to go to the downtown branch, bring it over. I don't know, it's just like, it's not easy to manage it. So everybody thinks it is because the groups appear in the search, but they really only apply to the searching. They don't apply to circulation rules at all. As far as koha is concerned, unless there's something I don't know about, it's pretty much blind to groups in the circles.
Yeah, I think when we initially came on, one of the things we changed to groups was making it so you could at least share like a patron database by setting up a group. So we use that platform of there being those search groups to be able to have it. So the way we set stuff up is because we do have districts, like multi-branch districts that are within our larger consortia. And so we did do that development. So that way you could see if you're going, and that's probably more of a public application, but if you're going from, one town to the next town, you could still, just show your card, but then it wouldn't work out of district. You'd have to get a new account if you went to some other branch that's part of the same system, because we have that all partitioned out. So we've added that. So I think the good news is at least the groups there are a good platform base to build what you're talking about. Because we definitely had that issue where we had a public library district that was like, wanted to just resource share internally for a while. And that's where I did like branch transfer limit stuff. So I made it so they're basically blocked from everybody out except for within their own district. And that works. It just, again, we have to rely on Bywater to do all these loads of these spreadsheets I put together that are really obnoxious and lengthy. And they're sick of doing it, and I'm sick of doing it. So, so that was kind of our solution to that particular problem. But yeah, I'll definitely look at that bug. Yeah, because that would be helpful as well, I think, for us to use that group functionality for circles and holds rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could simplify some of these problems because we need a layer between all libraries and individual libraries, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it was reported in 2016, so it's been a little while, but you never know.
Any other bugs or things like that people want to highlight? Okay, well, I think the other thing I wanted to ask, particularly since I just saw something, is anybody interested in or planning on using the curbside service plugin that Kyle developed?
Yeah, I want to try it out. It does look promising. I mean, it looks like they actually consider consortia in the development process, which is exciting because usually that doesn't happen with developments. But it does look like it's already ready for branch limitations. So we have a users group on Friday, and I'm just going to kind of show it off and see if I can get like a beta tester to get started with it. I know that it still needs some work from what I've heard, but it does look like a fairly complete solution for something that just got released. I mean, so we're kind of excited about it.
Yeah, I know from talking to one of the Bywater educators that they felt like there was a few more tweaks that the actual libraries would appreciate because this is driven by Kyle, who is obviously a brilliant guy, but not working in a library. So they had a few things like that, but they've also been fighting against the need to get something ready because if you wait another 6 months, then there might not be a lot of utility for it. So to get it perfect. So that's kind of, so yeah, I don't know. I haven't, I look forward to watching the video Bywater put together and released this morning to try to get a better sense of it. I know that it is my understanding that if you're using the Aspen Discovery, which we use, that they are making it compatible with that as well. So that it would also, wouldn't just be limited to the Koha provided OPAC, but it's going to connect to that discovery layer as well. And looks like Christopher says he's got a library that's already been using it. Is it successful, Christopher?
I think that was in response to he has a bug. He wants to look at it.
Oh, a bug?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you have
he's
a bug,
nodding.
okay. Gotcha, okay. Oh yeah, so we don't use the transfer cost matrix, so I'm not the one to answer that particular issue.
We do, but I don't know if I can answer that particular issue. You're asking why it does not block transfers. Yeah, it blocks, for us it blocks holds, but not transfers specifically, I think. Like if somebody's turned off on the holds queue or on the transfer cost matrix, then those holds aren't going to show up on the holds queue. So then we just don't end up sending it at all. I don't know if it has any bearing on transfers. We don't use the transfer limits at all. We just exclusively use the transfer cost matrix to control that kind of stuff. And it's a big pain.
Yeah, we had an issue where we had a situation where you were able, until we started using the branch transfer limits, you were able to place a hold on something that you weren't supposed to, but then it would not show up in the queue. So there'd just be these phantom holds out there that nobody was seeing or filling or anything like that. So I think that's still an issue, but we've had those branch transfer limits. But like Jason says about the cost matrix, those things get pretty unwieldy pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think the matrix works for us for the most part. I mean, when we were shut down fully, then we just disabled holds entirely. When we flipped it and reversed it so that we were only disabling certain libraries, we were just turning them off on the matrix. I don't know that it works that well when like the library that's closed is the only library that has the item. I don't know if we have that phantom hold situation you were talking about or not. But for the most part, it's worked for us. I haven't gotten many complaints, and that's usually my meter. So, yeah, and we do keep track of holds pretty close. We do require, I have a report where libraries can go in and find orphaned holds, so holds that aren't going to be filled by another library either because they're marked missing or they're hanging out somewhere. So I try to keep my libraries monitoring that themselves, and I haven't had much complaint there.
I'd be interested in looking at that report.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like maybe turning off the transfer limits is what has to happen to prevent that, but I haven't gone down that road. I don't know. It requires some testing. I can't share the report I was talking about.
Man, the transfer limits only work with collection codes, is that right?
Item types.
They work with item types?
Yeah. The branch transfer limits. Let me go into my admin.
That's nice and messy, but that's what we're using for orphaned holds. I think it does just check statuses, like if it's withdrawn, lost, damaged, not for loan. Then it'll show up on there for the library to resolve in another manner.
Yeah, we never used it. I'm just seeing collection code. Maybe it's in the settings though.
That could be. Yeah, because I think it might be an either or. We definitely have ours set up as a.
Yeah, because we don't use collection codes. Which okay, yeah. Yeah, you can do collection code or item type. I see. Okay. Might be worth.
I mean, if you have a controlled amount of item types and you have a lot fewer, you have fewer libraries than 100, it might actually work out pretty well. I mean, we've got the thing, like I said, where I can't even load the table effectively. Kyle wrote a patch, but that loads it faster. But the problem is it doesn't actually show you what's actually checked and not checked. And then if you make changes, it doesn't update. So those are two pretty key problems with that patch. So all it does is just show you like an empty thing, even though we have branch transfer limits. So I think he's also going to work on that for, yeah. Okay, well, we're getting close to it. I guess probably for a future meeting we can maybe talk about like cool reports. I'll look at I'm going to look at this report that Jason wrote after the meeting and see if that has some application for us. We have a variety of different reports we're using too to try to hunt down various things. I guess one question I could ask you about reports is we do the we set them up so what we call our any library reports, where we write the report so you can just select from a drop-down menu the branch, and then that way when we update a report, it updates for everybody. Are your libraries using those type of things, or are you doing all custom reports?
I already have way too many reports for that. So yeah, we do a drop down, and I made a custom authorized value list so we could also have all libraries at the top if we needed to search everything.
Yeah.
And then I can also remove branches that we don't want them to run reports on. I just realized that report didn't paste in well because formatting or it's too long or something. So I posted it up there.
Oh, great. Thanks.
And that link will actually work. Yeah, we rely on parameters a lot just to try and cut down on the bulk of the reports in our repository, because I do have some where I've done specific things for specific libraries. I have a tab in my reports for that, but for the most part, we try to make them neutral enough that anyone can run it at any library.
Yeah, we're the same philosophy. Just try to make them as general as possible so that all the libraries can use them. But if not, then we'll make them a specific one.
Looks like I had to request access to get to that Google Doc.
I changed the sharing settings. It should work now.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Lovely. Yeah, I'll plug that in and take a look at it.
But yeah, you can see it on that report. I'm using SLIBS, SLIBS, as my authorized value category instead of branches, because that lets me control what's there. I also have some jQuery that causes that dropdown to default to the logged in library as long as the first half of the parameter says choose library in that exact format, which my libraries have found helpful. They
What's
don't have
the,
to pick themselves.
is that an authorized value you have set up, the slibs?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because we definitely, that looks unfamiliar to me.
Yeah. That's part of the reason I don't share most of my reports, because they have all
Yeah.
these weird little quirks.
I should be able to just change that to branch though, and it should work fine.
Yeah. I was looking for that jQuery I was talking about. I can share that too.
Other than, obviously Jason uses jQuery quite a bit. Do any of your other libraries rely on that?
I mean, for what? Just for general use?
You can kind of bypass. Having to actually do like particular developments if you can use the jQuery to kind of overwrite things. So one example I have is we don't want our libraries to ever use the set library feature because we want them to always be their library. So we have some jQuery in there to hide that. So there's like, we do a lot of like hiding of various things that we don't want them to see, like, or no, if you're not an academic library, we don't really want you to see course reserves. So we just hide it, things like that.
Yeah, we use it for mostly for the OPEC. We don't do a lot in the staff client. I'm trying to think what we do in the staff client. But then maybe not much in the staff client. But yeah, we do a lot of similar stuff. I mean, we did we kind of redesigned our OPAC using jQuery to a large extent, and CSS. But I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, we've done a few cool things. Like we created a date slider for the results list to narrow that. I've done a few other things, but mostly visual stuff.
I think that's everything was the last thing we've done. We've done stuff like have it checked where to forgive fines always for some libraries that, never want to charge a fine. Although we've made some changes now that now we don't probably need that, but I know there is a limit to from talking to George Williams, there's a limit to where you can do too much jQuery and then it blows some stuff up.
There's a character limit in the sys preference as well.
Really?
I'm not sure what that is, but apparently there is too much of a good thing.
Huh. Well, and Bywater has actually encouraged us for certain things in the OPAC to use jQuery or JavaScript, but I find that, I mean, you can see it loading, because or making all the changes to the page afterwards. So it's like, well, this would be better as like an actual enhancement to the system, but we're not going to do that. So just use jQuery. But it's like at some point,
it does start to bog things down, it seems like. Yeah.
That's how I mean, it is nice to be able to control it ourselves, but at the same time, yeah, I feel like there's a point where it's like too much.
Yeah.
It's like too much of the browser's doing too much of the work.
Yeah, that has me thinking I could probably go through there and remove some things that maybe aren't pertinent anymore, like that check the forgive fines box. We probably don't need that. So just to clean it up a little bit, because I'm sure there's going to be other stuff that we're going to want to add. So
yeah, I'm at 1,600 lines right now, and I haven't hit the limit yet, so I don't know what that is. George could probably tell you.
Yeah, no, he said he walked right up to it and started to see problems and had to make some decisions and pulled some stuff back. Okay, well, I think if there's not any final thoughts from anybody, we can probably conclude the meeting. We now have a regular scheduled meeting that is, let's see, I'm trying to see when the next one is. So the next one will be October 26th, I think, because we are doing, let's pull it up. I think we are doing it every fourth Monday, every other month, if that sounds right, Jason.
Yeah, that's what I told the Google Calendar to do. So
Okay.
yeah, it looks like it's on October 26th.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, if anybody has any ideas for broadening the group out, then I would love to hear them. I'm not sure. Yeah, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That's right. So same time. You could just schedule a recurring thing in your calendar, and that should match what's in what the plans are. But I'll send out the recording and of this and some of the stuff we have in the chat, and yeah, hopefully we'll get a little bit more discussion. But I appreciate everybody for showing up and the discussion we did have today.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
I think we'll probably be doing something in September, right, for the.
Oh yeah, I should warn you. So at the conference, we're having 2 days of presentations, and then the third day is going to be what we're calling a bug-a-palooza. And we have the day kind of blocked out in different module areas, basically by the special interest groups. So 30-minute blocks. We're hoping that the members of the SIGs and the SIG leaders will come in, and we can just talk about bugs that we want to see, maybe work on some bugs together in that window of time. I think it's going to be pretty fluid, but if there are certain bugs that we as the Consortia SIG want to look at, we can definitely bring that to the attention of the conference, I guess.
Well, I think we've got a couple of good ones already that we talked about today that are probably worth discussing. So if you think of anything else, we could bring it there.
Yep.
If you are attending the conference, which I recommend you do.
And we should have a schedule out soon. We have a conference meeting on Wednesday, which will probably finalize all that and get things sent out. So yeah, watch for that as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.